Something just happened in Washington, D.C. that should make every voter stop and think. The House of Representatives just passed the Save America Act, and that is a bill requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote. So, simple question. Why are Democrat leaders fighting it when Democrat voters overwhelmingly support voter ID? So this isn't about left or right. This is about whether politicians just turned on their own voters, because the numbers don't lie. Poll after poll shows Democrat and Republican voters both support overwhelmingly voter ID requirements. I mean, we're talking nearly 80% support voter ID. Here's the disconnect. If voters overwhelmingly support voter ID, why are Democrat leaders opposing it?
What we're seeing right now is fascism. We're seeing fascism at play.
71% of Democrats like this idea, so why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0, and I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting.
So they claim the bill will disenfranchise voters, it will harm voters, it will prevent voters from being able to file the necessary documents to vote. They say it would harm minorities, but here's the problem. You're saying millions of Americans lack the ability to obtain basic documents such as birth certificates, real ID, passport, driver's license, basic things that most people use nearly every day. That's not compassion. That's condescending. Okay, so let's think about everyday Americans. To get on a plane, you need a passport. You need identification. To go to the bank, you need identification. Get stopped by a police officer, you need identification. Get a job, you're going to have to provide certain documentation along with identification. To receive certain types of government benefits, you need documentation. But when it comes to voting, suddenly proof of citizenship is controversial. And here's what makes this politically dangerous.
So to get that identification is harder than it actually seems. This would disenfranchise rural voters. It disenfranchises.
So those people can never get on an airplane.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can never do all of the things that we have to
Martha,
show
look,
our ID
I appreciate
for.
that. You and I might have this documentation.
It's not that hard.
It's not hard for us.
It is not that hard.
But
I think it is
data
so
shows-
disingenuous to women and indigenous people, everyone else she just mentioned, to suggest that they don't have the wherewithal.
It's not a suggestion. No, it's not a suggestion. It's a fact. Data has showed the lower your income is, the less of an opportunity you have a passport. Actually, people that make under $50,000 a year, less than 10% have an actual passport. That's data that is showing.
So this discussion really isn't about Republican or Democrat. It's about Democrat leadership widening the gap between where they are on issues and where their voters stand on issues, such as voter ID. When Democrat voters overwhelmingly support voter ID, but Democrat leadership almost 100% oppose it, that's a fracture between leadership and voters. And voters notice this. They start to feel ignored. They feel like their voices are not being heard. Their voices don't matter. They feel like they're being talked down to, like they don't know what's good for them. And that creates a big problem for Democrat leadership. This is how politicians erode trust from their voters. Voters do not like being talked down to, and they don't like being made to feel like they're stupid. This is a big moment for the Democrats. It's not just because of this particular bill, which could be a big issue for them, but it's because of their reaction to it. When political leaders ignore overwhelming public opinion in their own base, their own voter pool, they create resentment. And resentment has a potential to move elections. So whether you support the Save America voter ID bill or not, ask yourself one question. Why are political leaders opposing a bill that has overwhelming public support? That is the real story.
71% of Democrats like this idea, so why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting.
Who would not want voter ID? Only somebody that wants to cheat. Think of it. We don't have voter ID. And the Democrats don't want it. And the reason they don't want it is because they want to cheat. Because there's no reason in the world, and I love that debate, Lindsay. I love saying, well, why don't you want voter ID? And you watch them say, I don't know, I just make them vote.
What other reason?
Even fake news CNN admitted it has bipartisan support and it crosses all demographics. Take a listen.
What are we talking about here? So take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote. But even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj, because she put out on X, what sensible, forward-thinking, cutting-edge leading nation is having a debate on whether or not there should be voter ID? Like, question mark. They're actually fighting not to have people present ID while voting for your leaders. Do you get it? Do you get it now? Is this a winner for Republicans? Can they turn this into a winner?
As is typically the case. Nicki Minaj has got it right on the head.
She's leading on the political front.
On the head. Voter ID, I've been working on this thing for longer than I can.
She's coming around.
It is a no-brainer. It's always been a no-brainer. It doesn't matter how you break down the constituencies. The American people have always been in favor of it.
You have to use an ID to get a beer. You have to get on a plane. You have to.
There is no defense for not wanting voter ID at the polls.
Yeah, even Nicki Minaj knows this is a no-brainer. People want this. Why wouldn't you want this? And it's unbelievable to me that some states don't have any type of voter identification law. Anybody can walk in and vote, and they don't even have to show any identification. Now, maybe that's how they get around this argument that people are not voting illegally because they don't even know who the heck is voting. So how can they say that? But you think voter ID is indefensible? Well, Chuck Schumer is going to defend being against voter ID.
Election security has revived discussions of the SAVE Act, which you have said you oppose. Proponents of it say that it's, to have ID, you have to prove U.S. citizenship to be able to vote. Though some of the claims they make, to be clear, are overstated. We know there's not widespread election fraud. But polling does suggest, there's a new Pew Research poll that 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. And I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting.
Make a good bumper sticker.
For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country. And when the American people hear what exactly it is doing and what its intent is doing, they're going to be against it as well.
All the Democrats seem to hate the voter ID Save America Act. I don't get it. It's going to come for a vote in the House. should win easily.
It passed.
Joining us now is Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. Byron, I mean, I know it's got to come back to the floor because we added voter ID. Voter ID, photo ID is something that we should have had. I mean, what you need it for everything else in life, including airplanes and federal office buildings and getting entitlement money. Why not this?
Larry, you said it absolutely right. Why not this? Everything you have to do in American life requires an ID. Americans very easily can acquire it.
Yeah, not difficult.
And the other thing is you just got to make sure you prove you're an American citizen. How hard is that? Where's your birth certificate? Where's your passport? These are things that can happen and can easily happen. But Larry, the truth is the Democrats don't want it because they want the loose ends in voting. They want to be able to allow people to sip into our voting systems and to be able to effectuate major changes to America without the American people either having their will be heard or to disenfranchise the American people. They view this as a challenge to their ability to maintain seats and maintain power. That is the truth. That's why they've always opposed voter ID.
That's right.
And if you look at states like Florida, states like Georgia, states like Texas, people have no problems having their IDs, no problems going to the polls and casting their ballot. It's about protecting the American franchise.
I think it was Steve Scalise, Majority Leader Scalise, I think it was last night on the show, who reminded us that you needed a photo ID to get into the Democratic convention. Okay, how about that?
True.
But they're against it for voting. And then Chuck Schumer's now saying it's racist. He calls it a Jim Crow law. I mean, it's pure insanity. And so will any Democrats vote for it in the House, you think?
They should. I think there'll probably be some that'll vote for it. They absolutely should. Larry, let me put it to you this way. For any member of Congress on the floor of the House, you know what they have to stick into the card slot in order to vote? Their congressional ID, which has their picture on it. So you're going to have Democrats who are going to vote no when they need their picture ID to vote in the wall of the House. I mean, this is crazy stuff.
Well, maybe they'll ring the fire alarm like they did the last time.
Yeah, so is that racist to make them use their ID when they vote on the bill? Doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's hear one more argument about how disenfranchising this is to so many voters around the country who just don't have the mental capacity to acquire their birth certificate or a real ID or something like that.
In most states, almost every state, when you do register to vote, you do have to show some form of identification. Now, what the SAVE Act is doing is something completely different. What it's doing is requiring that every state has to overhaul their election procedures, stop mail-in voting, stop online registration.
Mail-in voting is actually not in this act.
But what it does is it validates that you wouldn't be able to do that because now you wouldn't be able to mail by vote. You have to show identification every time. Now, look, 20 million Americans don't currently access a driver's license, let alone a passport. So to get that identification is harder than it actually seems. This would disenfranchise rural voters. It disenfranchises.
So those people can never get on an airplane. Yeah. They can never do all of the things that we have to
Martha,
show our ID for.
I appreciate that. You and I might have this documentation.
It's not that hard.
It's not hard for us.
It is not that hard. I think it is so disingenuous to women and indigenous people, everyone else she just mentioned, to suggest that they don't have the wherewithal.
It's not a suggestion. No, it's not a suggestion. It's a fact. Data has showed the lower your income is, the less of an opportunity you have a passport. Actually, people that make under $50,000 a year, less than 10% have an actual passport. That's data that is showing.
Democrats are used to for years. If you remember during the Georgia voting law about 5 years ago, they said it was Jim Crow 2.0. They're used to just saying Jim Crow 2.0, disenfranchised, racist, and people buying it, and corporations being bullied into silence.
Usually works.
But times have changed. Look, I flew up this morning to New York to check into my hotel, to get into my plane, do a host of things.
Did you show proof of citizenship?
I needed an ID. And you know what? You know what? Also, just this week in Kansas, Clearwater, Kansas, everybody loves to say, Democrats love to say, this is all a hoax. Citizens can't vote in elections. Well, they found out not just a citizen voting in elections, a non-citizen was the mayor of the town of Clearwater. Nobody bothered checking it. So the next time Democrats say, oh, this is just all a fantasy to try and disenfranchise voters, there's actual real proof that this could happen.
There's not real proof.
We're
showing one case of a mayor that slipped through the cracks.
He's the mayor.
So how do we even know the numbers, really? If we don't know who all is voting, we don't know some of the people who vote have their citizenship or not, because in a lot of states, you're not even required to present any type of identification. So To me, if you're not interested enough in voting to obtain the documents required to register, then that's on you. You can't blame everybody else for not giving you the opportunity to vote, because the opportunity's there. The documents are not hard to obtain, and if voting is important to you, you should be able to meet that bar.
84% of Americans can agree on the weather, let alone 84%. To do anything, but they agree on this.
But they're not agreeing on the merits of this bill. You give them a quick thing. Should you show ID? Yeah, sure, we should show ID. But now showing and documenting proof of citizenship is something different.
Everyone who is here legally want to have proof of their citizenship.
Well,
march down, get yourself a passport, get yourself a real ID. If they can afford a cell phone or anything else they do in life, this should be a priority for anybody who would want this.
This is a problem, or a solution in search of a problem, right? We have not had documented evidence of this voter fraud.
No other country works like this.
Go to Great Britain, try and vote in their elections, try and go all across Europe without an ID, see how far you get.
Read our Constitution, right? First, it does not give power to Congress to say who can and who cannot vote. That is not in the Constitution. What it does say is the states have that right.
So imagine yourself as a brand new citizen of the United States. You came from another country. It was your dream to become an American citizen. When you complete your citizenship process, they're going to give you a certificate. It's a naturalization certificate that shows that you have now become a U.S. citizen. I'm sure you can present that document when you register to vote to prove your citizenship. I don't think you would even need to bother with trying to get a passport. But wouldn't you be proud and have that readily available? Wouldn't you be proud and want to do whatever is required of you to be able to vote in the elections? I think that's how most legal immigrants to the United States would respond to this. They would say, hey, I'm proud to be able to vote. I'm proud to be a U.S. citizen, and I'm going to do whatever they ask me to do to be able to register to vote and carry out my constitutional right to vote as an American citizen. It's the people that are, maybe on the edges there that don't have the correct paperwork and stuff for whatever reason, who are going to be maybe left out of the elections. And I think that's what the Democrats are so worried about, and that's why they oppose this so much. We'll have to see if the Senate is able to get this through. I kind of don't expect they will be able to, but, you never know. They're working on it. And President Trump says he has a plan B in place to make sure to get voter ID for the 2026 election. So we'll just have to see. And it's going to be interesting what happens next in the Senate.
We heard Senator Thune say he doesn't want to break the filibuster for this. 2 seconds.
They don't have the votes, but if they do ever break the filibuster, it'll be something like this.
Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Have they set the bar way too high, or is this something any American citizen should be able to easily accomplish and be able to legally vote in U.S. elections? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.
It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. We are going to do everything we can to stop it.
Yes, my name is so-and-so, and I live in the country. I'm here, I can vote. They say, that's not allowed. And everyone's trying to figure it out. And they do something to win. You know what it is? They cheat. But let's get on to another subject.